Welcome everyone here. We have welcomed Gay and Jan from Manuka and Julian Community Boards. We have apologies from Councillor Parker and Lens present from the Community Board. In the identification of urgent business. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Someone move those apologies, please. So, Councillor Gilchrist and Councillor Burt, all in favour? Aye. If you used to swing to the right, it seems to be a draw to the left wing somewhere on this table. Thank you. Identification of urgent business. I am able. Anyone in nature? Declaration of conflict of interest. Chairman's report. I attended the Coastal Hazards public meetings at Rangatahi, Norfolk and Waipoko. They're quite successful, and we've got a meeting with the Rangatahi group later on early this month to just go over some other issues. Ted Muga and President of Community Board meetings. Then the standing orders chairing meeting and over the attend the opening of the Muga swimming pool on Saturday, and the Mayor and I had a race, and after I dived in 2 strokes and he was like I see his heels, so I gave up chasing. It was a really successful day. It's great. Right. Confirmation of minutes. Councillor Wills, Councillor Gilchrist, all in favour? Councillor Benny, carried. So we are to now reports on Report 2, page 19. Parade safety options. To 7.1. Point. Is that on the 7.1. Point. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you.
This report has been presented with this closed loop. The good news is it's now slowed down. We had 2 pieces of work done on that, more a localized distraction. Down. Investigating the causes of it and some of the information. The outcome of that was that apparently slopes of aggregate move up the coastline on a regular basis, and we very it was a significant depletion in gravel, so the beach then became very exposed to the wave action and erosion. Interesting enough, Kent University predicted that the slope of gravel would return later in 2020, and it's proven to be correct. So with the replenishing of the beach, the erosion has slowed down. Unfortunately, this is a situation. Erosion can be anywhere between 1 and 2 metres per year. So there will be further events. It is not really practical to try and stop it.
Sorry, Andrew, could you just speak a little bit louder? Just Alan's just struggling to hear. Thanks.
So yeah, as far as stopping the erosion, it's not really practical in doing that. It's a huge cost and also a huge risk in doing so. So it's recommended that we just basically continue to monitor and retreat as necessary. We did look at the long-term situation, and we got Jacobs Consultants to do some modelling of the entire coastline. It's been done for 50-year and 100-year sort of horizon, and that has shown that it is confirmed that the erosion will continue down to the point it will eventually end up into the Velodrome area. Most likely there, but there is also raised a number of other coastal erosion issues on the coastline. Have you seen any questions?
Any questions?
So, through you, Mr. Chair. So, Andrew, I guess, in answer to the public questions, they'll be, what are we doing? And effectively, we're doing nothing, but we're monitoring, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. We're monitoring, I guess, making sure the public safety.
Yeah. And I guess, the reason why we're having that approach too is there's no key infrastructure in that area. It is a long-term erosion forecast, so I think the cycling track still has a good 50 years, something along those lines. So I guess as far as those community groups, can they start to plan, into the future? Do you think now? They should be able to have confidence, I guess.
I think there is some confidence there, yeah, but it has to be acknowledged that long term, the erosion is going to take away that cycling track eventually. So I guess that needs to be considered when making the investment.
Councillor Wills?
Thank you. Just to suppose we're not the only district having the same problems on this as far as this erosion. It's reflected right around the country, correct?
That's correct.
And no appetite from central government to look at assisting financially anywhere of importance, or what they deem may be important.
As far as I'm aware, central government are not interested in funding as such. Yeah, it is really the responsibility of local authorities to manage the coastline and regional council.
Any other questions? There seems to be just happening all over the world. It's just a natural what's happening on that road, so we just have to work with it and be aware of it. Thanks. Right. Obviously, someone here said recommendation that the infrastructure supports 1, 2 and 3. Nigel and Councillor Gilchrist, all in favour? Councillor Benny, carried. Thank you. Right, we have now this one, 10. Okay, this is one that came up months ago, and I'll call on Simon and Daniel come forward and speak on this report. So that's been a concern for the people using that part of the report, so welcome.
I'll just pick on 20 pages. Again, this report is now closing the loop. We had some concerns raised earlier this year, and requests made by councillors to look at various options that we can employ to try and improve the safety, reduce the speed, etc. So this report here has been prepared by Simon and Daniel. Detailed quite a number of options that are available, but it needs to be recognised that this road is actually an important access road. It's a container terminal report. It has a wide in there. Effective as a district arterial hierarchy, so it is a major road, and there is a limitation on what we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Andrew, just detailed the background As you'll see in the report as we go down it, paragraph 5, they just talk about the mixed use and the challenge that creates to get a road layout that suits all of the variety of road users. We also note that there is a small minority of drivers whose behaviour is considered inappropriate or illegal, and it's certainly affecting the dusk viewing of the penguins. Currently, Andrew mentioned that currently the road status is a collector road, but under the proposed district plan, its status has been raised to district arterial because it's reaching significance. The report also notes that enforcement by the police is difficult, and ongoing presence down at Marine Parade is difficult for them to express that in the past. And yeah, we detail a number of options you see in the report, and we're recommending that initially we upgrade the signage. The current signage down there, Mr. Chair, is a single warning sign for the penguins. Those permanent road warning signs, they're called, quite appropriate as the penguins aren't on the road. So we've suggested that there's something at the signage in advance of the beach activity zone, certainly relating to all of the activity, as well as the penguins be upgraded. And also creation of a gateway to that beach activity zone, just to put a bit more detail on that, where we are able to squeeze the road width at a certain point to a certain degree in consultation with the various road users. And we continue to engage and encourage the police to have quite a presence down there. As you see, a lot of the options relate to enforcement. Yeah, and we'll continue to monitor vehicle speeds. We had some data there from last year. We've also just picked up some data in the last month, which I've got here as well, which pretty much confirms the figures that you've got in the report. We have quite a percentage of vehicles exceeding the 50k, existing 50km speed limit, and 5% exceeding 60 kilometres per hour. Bearing in mind that when the police are there, their enforcement tolerance means that those speeds in the range of 50 to 60 aren't enforced by the police. They're in almost a quandary of existing speed, environment, and road layout to reflect or marry that. Thank you.
Anything to add to this?
Mr. Chair, no, not really. All I can just mention that I've been in contact with the parties involved with that, so I'll be out to the site, and I have requested police to do regular patrol with them, but as Simon explained, it's not a sustainable way because none of the police believe we can just go back to the usual self.
The behaviour of people, isn't it? Questions, Councillor Wills.
So thank you on that, and thank you for the report. And obviously, it's an ongoing issue that's been going on for a number of years. I don't think we're going to get any one simple answer that's going to meet everyone's expectations. I note in the report that you've got two different penguin groups. Are they collectively working together for the same outcome, or are you meeting barriers along the way from respective groups about what they want and expect as well from the council perspective?
I've not been in contact in the past with the penguin groups. I can't answer that, sorry. So maybe Daniel or Andrew can.
Councillor through the chair. No, I'm aware of two groups, but I've only dealt with one.
Fine, and so thank you for that. I'm quite happy to recommend options 3 and 4 as suggested in the report. And I think that the minimum we can do to try and ensure that we continue with a draw Caroline Bay to tourists to go down and watch in a safe manner. As far as the other issues, I think it's just one of those things that's going to be ongoing, and hoping from a regulatory point of view and a police point of view that they'll come on board and support it as well.
Bridget?
Thank you. If I can speak to your question around the people groups, I'll meet with them on a variety of occasions, and the concern really is around safety of viewers, children potentially being swiped by a car, and there is water races there quite regularly, and I've seen them middle of the day doing probably in excess of 80 k's. So a solution we get today, and I know potentially not going to be perfect, but we do need to try and get a really good outcome, because it's not about the people, it's about the safety of the people on the side of the road. So that's where we should shift the focus to. So my question for the team is gateway versus cushions. I see the issue being boy races, and a lot of them are low, and cushions might at least slow them down at that particular point versus a gateway. I'm just questioning all that slow speed, I guess. To those sort of people, I mean, that's all right to those people that are going to take on board, they're going to read the sign and say, oh, it's a recreation area, will slow down. Those people that are involved now, they're not going to probably heed those orders, and they're just going to likely continue the behaviour that they had in the past. So as far as getting an effective outcome, is this going to take all the boxes?
If I could answer that here, the speed cushions would be very effective at controlling speed, but they also are a hindrance to heavy vehicles going over them. Yes, the heavy vehicle can straddle the cushion, but it's perfect. They can take the lane perfectly, but if they have to move over slightly for a cyclist, a parked car, then they are faced with actually having to drive over these things. So it is difficult to bring heavy vehicles take on that. It's tough on the vehicle, tough on the load as well. So I think that we probably should keep that one in our back pocket for now, and to see if we can do the right approach at the end of the year. If things don't improve, it's another option.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, just one follow-up to that. I guess rather than having to go back through a committee I'd like to see us move forward on this so we can get some outcomes through safety. So if we were to sign 3 or 4 off, can we delegate some authority to the officers to look at the likes of speed cushions? If this doesn't have the desired effect, potentially, because we're coming into a season where we're going to have a lot of extra people in these recreation areas. Safety is number one to us, and probably thinking of solutions if this doesn't work.
So may I say something? Can you hear me now? Hey, look, I agree with the recommendation here, but why don't you have a temporary speed limit such as the schools have that simply light up at the time to get everyone to reduce to 30 k's? So I've said the heavy trucks will just do that anyway, it's no problem, but that really gives the police some teeth to actually police it over and above 30 k's at that time. So they just come on at a certain time, just like the schools. You've got to drive at 30 k's, no buffers. You can't expect trucks to drive over bumps and stuff like that. They're the primary users of that road, so they should take precedence. So I think you just got to think laterally, and as I say, a temporary speed zone at a certain time of the day, and even if it's lit up like the schools have, so there's no excuse for ignoring it.
Thanks, Councillor Burdick. It's answer those
Yes, doing speed limits are a difficult piece, to be honest. For them to be enforced, they must be set legally, and they have to comply with the legislation and setting them. So schools are in the legislation as a special example, and they can have variable speed limits, but to set a 30 km in other areas, generally the road has to be engineered to that 30 km for the speed limit to be set at 30. that would involve actually putting the speed cushions in and doing up that work to allow that. Then we have to go through a full public consultation because we're meeting the bylaw. So this is a long process. We are looking at reviewing some of our speed limits early next year. That's our plan.
Yep, okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I just, it sounds like it's the boy races the problem, and obviously if the police can't sort of, it's really the police need to actually deal with that issue, don't they? But anyway, that's all right.
Thank you.
Sorry, just a question. Would there be any value in having the speed cushions just on the side of the road, closest to the headlands, and then where people are? It's about safety. And I'm not sure about the way the trucks go, say the container trucks go into the container terminal. But if I put in a feeling they need to have the border thing with doing, you take out on the other side of the road. So with that, yeah, do they have so many people get these pre-emption? But maybe that would be potential. I mean, that's prioritising safety at the area where people are congregated and leaving half of the road free for unimpeded traffic.
Just a comment relating to the vehicle use through the chair. We're mindful that the Port Tauranga container terminal will at some stage be activating their exit gate, which is at the northern end of Marine Parade. It was built when they initially set up, but the capacity as such on the container terminal hasn't reached that yet. So we are mindful that that exit will become active at some stage, which means that the trucks that currently aren't necessarily going to the northern end of Marine Parade at the moment will in the future at some stage be coming back that way.
But they'll be coming back, not coming.
That's right.
So they'd be on the other side of the road.
Okay. So, are you asking for just not so much an amendment to this? Councillor Woods has moved it.
Yeah, we're still going to move this.
Yes, yeah.
No,
Councillor Woods and Councillor.
Look, I'd just like to, in relation to have a come forward which would delegate authority to officers to progress on the options if this is not really the issue of dangerous driving.
Is everyone comfortable with that, understand that there is a need?
I think the delegation should be just keep pursuing other avenues based on what happens in the future in terms of driving behaviours and come back to the council again, as opposed to delegate for those things happening. There's going to be so many things that can cause unknown effects to that working environment with all the other tensions between everyone else who uses that road. So I'm not sure if we really need to say give them authority to act. Just give them the ability to keep looking at all the options and come back to us with proposals.
Yeah, look, my concern is that if we do that, it's going to be February, March next year by the time we have another solution. So, based on that, 4 months away, and with that busy season, we're trying to protect the people. So, I'm still like to move them. I've got pointing forward to along the lines as good as I'm going to pick up.
So we've got an amendment to, in addition to the recommendation. In favour?
Aye.
Councillor Dean? Right, so the first motion is recommendation 1 to 3, Councillor Wills, second Councillor Bird. All in favour? There it is. Right, thank you. Right, and now move on to page 32.
26.
Oh, then we're going to do that roundabout, are we?
Helen, are you just struggling to hear a little bit?
I am wee bit, yeah. Everyone just needs to speak up a bit.
Okay.
We've got, you right there, Alan?
Just need some.
Yeah, I'm just struggling to hear. I'd just like everyone to speak up, that's all. And speak towards the speaker.
Yeah. You'll be aware of that, Councillor Booth, who's can't quite hear us, so you can welcome. Oh, this thing. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here for the next 3 reports, but
Yes.
particular for the key projects, and Graham and Susan will respond to any certain questions that you have, starting with the Parry-Orah pipeline.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you have a report, Graham, here answering your technical questions, but progress is great.
Yeah, we got any questions on the Parry-Orah pipeline? You wish?
My only question, the construction one, completion date, September 21, 22. Just as far as the carryover of the budget between the 2 years, 2 financial years, how much do you think roughly is going to be proportion to each side of it?
We're still expecting that section 1 will be completed this financial year, section 2 this financial year, section 3 will go through next December. That is ahead of the budget currently in the long-term plan and everything for this year. Section 3 will in fact be a commitment that will occur from January or February, will in fact be ahead of the budget. Right? In fact, for section 3 there is no budget this year, we'll be seeking approval to basically pre-spend next year's budget. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions? I just got one small here. It's got consenting risk. What sort of do you foresee or is that? Do you see a risk?
It's so there's just some regional council consent in the process at the moment, but very low.
It's pretty low.
Yeah.
Right, now the questions on Parry-Orah, we're going down to Dowlands. Someone please move that Councillor Lyon, Councillor Oliver, all in favour? Aye. Councillor Kenny, carried. Thank you. Right, Dowlands report. We're coming on there, or going to be going on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the most significant part is that there are a couple of tenders in the marketplace closed before Christmas, and there's a meeting of the tenders and procurement committee 21 December 4 p.m. that should be a further contract for of the order of $10 million. So by the time we get to the next meeting, there will be a whole lot more contracts in place. So the progress is great, it's tight, but that's the nature of the work we're dealing with, especially when you come to consenting and private parties and so on.
Any questions on that? Others? No? Someone? That, Councillor Wells, Councillor Good, all in favour? Mr. Manny, carried, thank you. Right, now we're on to Winchester Trolley Roundabout. Susan.
Thank you. Yes, I will take that as read as well. The tenders and procurement committee this morning and approved the award of a tender for the civil works of the roundabout construction, which is due to start in January, late January, early February, tracking to completion for the end of financial year. The program provided shows that we practically complete by the end of the year, which is fantastic. So, yes, on track.
Questions roundabout? Councillor will be happy with the Geraldine community and us receiving your fine town.
I'll make that special.
You'll do that. Okay. Councillor Oliver, second.
It's all the same.
Councillor Gilchrist, it's all the same. Please say aye. Against any, carried. Right, we have, thank you actually, Susie and Grant for that. It's, these updates are just give us an idea of where we're going, where we're at. Right, we are on to change 7. Excellent. Page 32 for what is it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is one of those tasks that has been on foot for more than 3 years, and it's carrying over from my previous role as part of the transition, and I think my transition part of this is now finished because we've fronted to the commissioners, we've said all our piece, and I'm thinking it's going to be March or April or so next year before the commissioners make decisions, and council will be in a position to look at its options in terms of does what's been decided or not. So it is it's a complex process, but having said that, the visibility is pretty high in terms of the submissions, the cross submissions, the evidence, the reports, and the timeline. It's all via the executive website, and that part of it is being particularly well administered. But there are a number of issues, and I detailed them on paragraph 6, that we have made submissions on, and as a lot of other groups and individuals have, and we're now just waiting for those commissioners to make determinations. That will be some months away because there is a big volume for them to do. Happy to take questions on the process and on our stance on that, on the issues.
Some questions? Questions? It's a complex piece, and we all know that, and it's going to, what comes out the other end, and it will be interesting for us all then, all of our communities. So thanks actually, we continue to great knowledge that you have on it, and it's, we do appreciate it as governments. Thank you.
I'm happy to move that.
Happy to move. Councillor Gilchrist, Councillor Fleur. Favour? Councillor Lee, carried. Thank you. Right, reforms.
Another strategic type issue, Mr. Chair, and this is a progress report and note in the heading as at the 5th of November, and it is a moving matter, and there's changes weekly. Last week's change was that progress was our delivery plan was approved, and this week we have submitted the deposit slip for the money, and we've been advised that we'll receive $3.43 million into our bank account by the end of the month. So that's the government's commitment to providing the money, and our commitment is that we have 2 main work streams. One is 16 projects as part of the delivery plan, and we're progressing all of those because they must start by the 31st of March next year, and we're on track for that. And the second part of the work stream is the request for information that came out from DIA a month ago, and one does not need to underestimate the amount of work and the amount of information that is being required. It's a 1,200 line spreadsheet, and we have about 10 different staff and a couple of consultants helping us populate that. We have until 1 February to do it, and it is a mission. everyone's got to play their part. We're on track. We've got a really good support from our staff. We're talking about people that who do a lot of our backroom work. They're beavering away, gathering information, and it's right down to granular levels, such as what is the pumping head of every pump that we operate. And absolute detail. It's everything, as I put in here, that we know and that we should know. And there are webinars every Tuesday morning. There is, that's for everybody who's participating across the nation. There are one-on-one webinars for us every Wednesday for an hour. There is videos, and there is a lot of support. And there is a lot of checking to make sure that we're treating it as a project, and we are. We're on task, but it is not just about gathering information for the fun of it. It is to gather information for the future entity, whatever that might look like. Let me take questions.
Essentially, that was my question, and you answered it right at the end. It's fair to say that this whole process is about gathering information, almost a stock take of, or a snapshot of where we are in terms of our infrastructure and what that means for central government right across the country.
Yep, so some might call it due diligence on our business.
Yeah. Any other questions? It's sort of like a big stock take. But, and for future, it's taking into a handy piece of information for us for the council for the future. Or
We know a lot of this stuff. It's what we do. It's our daily work. But now we have to document it in a format that others want to receive it in,
yeah.
so that they then understand everything that we know and that we should know.
Yeah. Excellent.
Just like to point out that Ashley's actually taken on a role of program manager for the school board service. Is leading this project 2 days a week. Very much appreciated and that sort of skill.
I was just going to say, essentially what it's saying is this information will be used in the back room for that regulatory agency to look at and also support their strategy going forward as to why they potentially will say later on all this water is now ours and the infrastructure.
Yes, and on the basis that the government has stated that it wants to set up a new entity or entities, then all this information goes into the formation of that entity. And so the new entity or entities, when they're set up on the basis of government policy, then they will know everything that we know. And that's for the entity's benefit. And that's why I call it due diligence.
Yeah, we appreciate that again, and the extra work, and for you to get 16 projects on the go in that short time, congratulations to you and everyone else.
And it is everybody else. There's a whole team of people that are playing their part. And one of the issues we have to be is nimble in our procurement for those 16 projects. For example, there's a small building project part of that. We booked the builder in already for next March because tradesmen at the moment are hard to get to do work urgently. And so we're working 3 or 4 months ahead to make sure we start everything by the 31st of March. That includes booking in tradespeople to do work.
Thank you. Other questions?
I'm sorry, Steve.
Oh, sorry.
Look, I'm just conscious on how this could read to the paper, so I think it's really important to note that we are still on the same timelines that we've been told, which is we will be, from the EIAs, that we will be doing public consultation with our own communities after our LGP, which will be around the sort of late this time next year. So, from what we've been told as governments, we still have the opt-in, opt-out, and there's a lot of, more to go on through just those questions unanswered that we still don't have answers to. So we are not in a position to be able to discuss with our community, but I just think that's quite important to know. Although the feeling in the room is that government is marching in a particular direction and you may not get a choice. But currently, we've been told that we do get a choice.
That's right, and all this right now, just to reconfirm, this is all voluntary. We've opted into this process,
Yes.
as everybody in New Zealand, every council in New Zealand has, but it is, we're there voluntarily, and for the 6.86 million, we're doing what we have to do, but we still have some serious gateways to look at middle to late next year. Absolutely.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, good point that we haven't said we're going to stay in permanently, so yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so we move to the recommendation report. Councillor Gilchrist, Councillor Piddington. All in favour?
Don't say that.
Okay, thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
We have now Peel Forest. Welcome, Peel Forest Closed Landfill Management Plan. This is an important piece of work in our environment and rather frightening. So just floor is yours.
Good morning, Your Worship, elected members and Chair. I will take the report as having been read, but to very quickly summarize, there was a flood event in December of last year, which caused a bit of a washout on the banks of the Rangitata, which exposed some of the superficial rubbish. That was at the landfill at the top of the gully. And that has been, it's had some works to contain, which was done in the response phase. But there has been no further work undertaken by the council to mitigate future events. And the purpose of this report was to highlight that it is a timely thing to do before you have more flood events. As we know, they're becoming more frequent and more severe at times. So our advice as officers is to recommend that you look at this issue critically, that we have advocated for the minimal works just to mitigate the immediate effects, and then look at the bigger plan for all of your landfills, your closed landfills within the district, front foot the issue, do a risk assessment, and incorporate Peel Forest as part of that for how you want to manage that long term. So it's a conservative approach, but still proactive. And I have to highlight, this is not unique to Timaru in any stretch of the mind here.
Yes, it's very important for our whole environment. We don't want to friends debacle our district, regionalised district. So, yeah, Your Worship.
Look, I'm happy to move the 3 points in the recommendation. I think it's been well put out and to deal with that initial issue. I have a long-term strategy, so thanks for the work and report.
Second.
Councillor Wills. Councillor Wills, second. Okay, yeah, no, thank you. And it's really enjoyed, as I've enjoyed reading it, but the detail there was really good. Some really good options.
Yeah, to just point out, that the landfill is still maintained as a big breaches as such at the moment, but the risk is there, and that's where we want to do. So the river is right up against the coast. It wouldn't take much for flood event to actually start to eat into the landfill, and then we get rubbish down the river. So yeah, the plan is to re-direct the river to the main channel.
Thank you. Just in regards to times, when do we expect this to actually be able to start?
We are not constrained by consents because ECAN have already stated that this is within the delegations. There will be consultation with Mana Whenua and to ensure that we respect the Waiora And what we will do is commission the work to happen as quickly as possible. And it's a case of how fast we can get the tender and RFPs and everything together to get it undertaken. So I would say it will happen in this financial year. Ideally, we'd like it to happen before fall, so during the summer months.
I'm just so mindful of winter coming up and the issues that could be, consequences of weather patterns changing, and who will monitor it in between?
Through the chair, we are still actively monitoring, so the neighbors who are on the property, they let me know quite regularly the status of what's actually happening. I have visited them twice. I'm going back up there this week with the engineer from EDE. So we are keeping an active eye on it. We have Midlands Contracting to pick up any litter that may breach, but that's just superficial stuff. So the idea is to be proactive rather than reactive, as you said.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The Mayor and Secretary, Councillor Wills, at options 17 and 19, is that correct?
17
And
and
17, option 2 and 4.
option 2, combined with paragraph 18 with the, in conjunction with option 2. Page 2,
Yeah. Okay. We're clear on that. Say aye. That's me. Oh, Bertie, you're right. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm good to go on that.
I keep forgetting about you.
Yeah, don't forget about me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
We have no business, we have no matters. We'll leave it closed. Thank you very much.